Oh, hey everybody, good morning. Paul with you again here. It's coming up on, I think, about 6:45 right now. My plan this morning, I've got things to do, but I'm probably going to walk 3 hours is what I'm going to do. I've got about a mile and a half in already. Started at 10 minutes after 6, so it's probably coming up on 7 right now, so I'm well over a mile. Good morning to all of you. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a different video because what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh in on a situation that's happening on the internet right now, and it's a troubling one indeed. There's two ways to look at it. There is a purist look at it, and there is a idealist way to look at it. So I'm going to get into it right now. Also today, if I have a chance, if I can manage it, I want to talk, and I know it's been 6 months or more since the crash of the Greg Biffle jet, the Cessna 550 private plane of Greg Biffle, the great race car driver. And I watched some things on it. I guess we'll cover that now only because it's easier. The race car driver Biffle had a small aircraft jet. It was a Citation 550 Cessna. I commented on this a long time ago. I was on a different channel, so it's now gone. But Greg Biffle had a Cessna, and it was a jet. It was a very elite jet. I'm going to cover this in pretty good depth, so it'll be a few minutes here that we'll spend together if you watch. The plane crashed minutes after takeoff. It crashed after losing one engine. So for a while, I was under the firm belief that due to contamination by air, that motor was destroyed, or not destroyed, but it was knocked out of commission. Not by fuel. These planes, I'm going to give you a rundown on the plane. It's probably the most elite personal jet that you can own. The reason I'm telling you that is because you pay a terrible cost for that aircraft. What it gives you is, it is so sleek and so aerodynamic and thin that when you get up into 45,000 feet, I think that's what they travel at, 44,000 feet. The plane has a profile which it's just like being in a living room, essentially. It's just like being in a living room. It's that comfortable because of the nature of the plane. There's very limited buffeting and vibration and all that, because this plane was designed to be in the clouds, far up in the air, and it gives you a tremendously smooth ride. It may be more so than virtually any other plane. That's how good it is in that manner. Unfortunately, you pay the price. When you come down and you have to land that plane requires you to use engine reversers. And where I work, they have an airport nearby, and the planes don't land normally to me. They land going away from me, and it's a fairly short runway, so the pilots have no choice when they come in with those big dual jet aircrafts, those dual jet motor aircrafts. When they land, they have to engage the engine reversers, and all it does is it slows the aircraft down considerably. The passenger jets also have that as well. But when they engage it, you can hear it. You can feel the vibration, and you can hear it, and it's over a mile away. So you can hear the vibration hitting, and it makes this gigantic roar. So that's what they do, because these planes are so slim. That's a small airport, by the way. It's not a main airport. So you get a lot of private craft there, aircraft. So with this in mind, we had, you have to land that plane. That's how you have to do it, because it is so designed for comfort and traveling up in the air high that when you land, you pay the price. Also, when you take off, that plane has to go extremely fast. So you know, the V1 or whatever they call it, when the nose goes up and you pull back on the stick and you go up, that's, I'm sure, going to be higher than other jets, because you have to overcome the sleek nature design of the aircraft. It's going to go faster in order to take off. Now, with that said, I wanted to make sure everybody understood that this is an elite plane. Unfortunately, with this plane, they had some people that needed to be beaten up badly when they made it, because the plane suffers from a serious defect. It's one that could have been fixed, and I don't think they've still fixed it. The plane has a long nose going to the front of the nose of the aircraft. The motors are on the back tail of the aircraft. There are two, one on each side of the tail fin. The geniuses decided to make a storage compartment on each side of the front nose of the aircraft. So you don't go in from the front, you go in from the side in the front, but the side. So if the plane is here before you, you just go to the sides, and there are opening doors. There are two. Now, they had at least, I looked it up, they had at least two problems with crashes or incidents because there is no mechanism or safety mechanism to let you know if you've left that door open, which would be a real problem, because if the door comes open, whatever debris or jackets or clothes or whatever are in that you stored, sleeping bag, whatever it is, it's going to go out, and there is a fair chance or better that they're going to make its way into one of the engines, depending on what side. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be guaranteed to do that, but they've had incidents with this before. Now, so, sorry, I got a fire truck back over there, but I think he's going into the fire department. Or is he coming to me? Oh, no, he's going in there. I thought he was going to beep at me. So, the imbeciles decided that this was a good place for a storage unit in one event. I can't remember when. I think it was in 2004. It was somewhere back then. The compartments were not safely latched, and if you forget, there's no way to know. You find out about it once you're up in the air at 500 miles an hour, 600 miles an hour. And what happened was this debris came out, made its way into one of the engines, and I'm not even sure about that. All I do know is that the engine compartment, not the engine compartment, the storage compartment opened up, and I think it was both of them, actually, or it could have been just one, I forgot now, but it started banging, and you're doing 500 miles an hour in the air at this point, and it was so disruptive that the plane almost crashed, if I'm getting that right. There were two incidents. The other one was in like 2014, and that one did crash, because it may have been the other way around, but there were two events with that, both related to not being able to secure the storage compartments, if you can believe this. If I had the video, I would show you, but it's pretty easy to figure out. Long front nose on the aircraft, storage compartments. All right. So I was under the impression that the motor went out, one of the jet engines went out, because those one of the storage compartments, opened up. On the crash video, when you see it, the door is open. The storage compartment door, one of them is open, and it crashed and laid to rest as such. So I was under the absolute belief that that's what caused the crash, because the plane took off. The plane made it up into the air on takeoff, but evidently on the roll, the pilot felt some kind of problem, and they shouldn't have taken off. But it was a retired Delta Airlines 757 passenger plane pilot, I believe, 757, which was a common plane still. So you would think a lot of you don't have a lot of faith in me, and you have a lot more faith in a pilot when it comes to learning things like this on this channel. And I'm telling you, the Delta crew died right after I took them to the airport in Fort Lauderdale. I picked them up in Miami. I took them. They were nice enough people. However, one of those pilots with the gray hair, I don't remember now because it's back in the 80s, 86, I believe, 86. The man, he would ask me to stop, and he was with his crew, and he'd get beer. He did that a lot, so he was having problems. He was an alcoholic for sure. Now I never saw him get one going out on a flight, but when he was done coming in, a couple of times I do remember him doing that. So unfortunately, we had another incident, and they crashed. They crashed in Dallas Fort Worth. And they all, I don't know if they all died, but a lot of them died. They did have some survivors on that flight. No matter, the point I'm trying to make to you is it's not good. Pilots suffer from the same kind of egghead behavior that we all make from time to time. Now, the NTSB did some sort of an update on this 4 months ago or so. And they're saying that the problem was, and this comes with the game, they were loaded heavily with fuel, and they also had seven people on board. That starts to add up. That's 1,500 pounds likely. So that's not including all the baggage and this and that. So you were talking about 1,500 pounds in people weight. God only knows what the cargo was. And you had fuel, and they had lots of it. They were flying from somewhere in, what was that, North Carolina or whatever that was, down to, I think they were going in somewhere in Florida. So they were loaded up with fuel for sure. I forget how many gallons, but it's a real problem. I mean, if you take off on a regular aircraft and you have problems, it's happened to me before. We were in China. We took off, and it felt kind of weird. And the guy came on and he said, we have to land. And they had to jettison all the fuel, a lot of it, because you're just overweight, and the tires and the structure may not be able to handle it. So they were dead ducks in that manner. And I watched a whole video on it twice. And essentially what they tried to do was to cash a check aerodynamically that they could not cash. They did not have the funds for it. Now, they said when a plane has a problem and loses an engine, it is extremely hard to make it back to the runway. It's extremely difficult because as you go back, you're going to be a mile or 2 miles off to one side of the runway. So you have to make this elongated path to go past it and then line up again. It's not easy, particularly when you have hundreds of gallons of gas, or thousands. I forget how many gallons were in that thing, but it was extreme. So, yes, they decided to turn. They got up to, I think they said when they were having problems, I think they said it was around 500 feet. I don't know if the plane ever went up higher than that. They said it was at like 1,400 feet or something, but it wasn't a true altitude because there were mountains. So they were something like 500-600 feet, if that, off the ground. So they might have gone a little bit more, but it wasn't much, and they were trying to make it back to the airport. Now, here's how difficult that would have been. If you had, and by the way, it was raining. There was raining, and there was fog and wind and all the rest of it. The conditions were horrible. You couldn't see. There was fog. So already you start seeing this, how unlikely it would be that they would be able to safely land. Don't forget they had 7 people on board and they had full tank of fuel. So, the landing gear could collapse or whatever. You'd have to make an absolutely perfect landing with no issues. So you see already that this was a real problem because of the weight issue alone. Then they had problems with the weather, the fog. They couldn't really see the airport. They could not see the landing strip. So they knew that, what they had to do. They knew the route that they had to take, but it's complicating matters, as you can see. So if this was to work, and by the way, I am not saying that the contamination of the engine by way of debris being put into the engine from an open storage compartment in the front. I'm not saying that didn't happen. It is possible. It's still possible that it happened. That may have been what happened. It may have come out on their run, when they were running down, taking off. But I don't know. They're not saying that. The NTSB is not saying that. They're not saying that at all. Is it possible? I think it's still possible, but I don't know 100% for sure. Now, all we know is that one of the engines did not work. So now, if you're going to try to land the plane, going back to the airport, you now have more and more things that are complicating the affair. You've got foul weather. You've got only one engine. The Cessna 550 is designed to go up and gain altitude with only one engine. But again, it's going to be according to factors like wind, like shear, like if you have hard winds coming in, with buffeting the plane, taking the plane, all that comes into account. And the chances of landing this plane were probably about 10%, if that. I would give it maybe 10, 12% on a successful emergency landing because of the weather factor and because of the severe nature of what they were going through. It was a high stress environment. And as far as I can tell, and with only one engine as well. And what they say is you lose 50% of your power when you lose one engine, but in reality, you lose about 80% of your ability to climb. That goes down by 80%. And that is understandable because the bad engine becomes a wind drag. So that makes it even harder. It just acts as a slowing feature of the aircraft at that point. And these are done under whatever kind of testing limitations that they do that with. So we don't know what the characteristics at that moment would have been. They would not be ideal, let's put it to you that way. So And I hear people talk. I was following this very closely 5 months ago, 6 months ago. I was constantly hearing all these people that are not even as smart as me, and I'm not aerodynamically smart and all that, but I've read enough and investigated this enough to understand what's going on. So, like I told you, I was convinced it was the compartment that made the engine bad. The stuff coming out of the storage compartment. But there's no evidence of it, at least not according to the NTSB. However, according to what they're saying by listening to the voice cockpit data, the talking aspect, they have the data for what the plane did. But there's another thing in there that controls the voice cockpit recorder. What it looks like was that Biffle was in the back seat. He was not flying. The Delta pilot was flying the plane, as far as I could tell with the NTSB update. The incredible stupidity of that pilot is beyond belief. He evidently did not understand. And by the way, I met a police officer when I was younger, back in the 80s, and he was like a 12-year vet, and he did not know the breakdown of braking on a police vehicle in particular, but a car. And he thought that it was 50% in the front and 50% in the back. And there's all sorts of various factors that go into that. But it can be as high as 85% of the braking comes from the front of the car, from the front brakes. It can be that high. It depends. It depends on many things like angle, all sorts of different things. But he thought it was 50-50. It is not. I suspect that the pilot did not understand physics at all. He didn't understand the crashes, which he should have been looking at. But when you want to stay positive, you don't want to look at crashes, and he should have. So, what did he do? According to the NTSB, he knew there was some sort of problem. They were trying to get the left engine or whatever it was. They were trying to restart it. And to do that, I don't know how they go about that, but he got out of his seat. And yes, you're hearing right. He got out of the captain's seat to go and try to figure out how to restart that engine. That's what they're saying. I don't know that to be a fact. He could have been going over there to grab a cup of coffee, but logic would dictate that he was going back there to try to restart the engine. That would have been the key right there. However, with him doing that, he handed the plane off to his son, who was a nice kid and somewhat knowledgeable for a 16-year-old boy. He was either 16 or 17. He looks like 16 to me. I just looked at it. And the idea in that situation where you have one engine down and you hand the plane off to a 16-year-old boy, your son, you have to be out of your fucking mind. Are you kidding me? Any chance that they had to get to that runway would have had to have been an expert pilot white-knuckling it right back to the runway. Now, the video that I watched said that it is not possible. When you lose an engine and you're trying to get back, you have a lot of things that aren't on your side, weight, etc. And they said it is a virtual. It's called the, I forget what they called it, but it was like an elusive decision to go back to the airport because it's a mental thing. The pilots, of course, you don't want to lose the plane and you don't want to expose yourself to a crash landing. But what they recommended on the video, twice I heard this, was to land straight ahead. That would have involved being 100% sure that you were going to be in a serious aircraft crash. featuring a full tank of gasoline too, which would have been flammable 100%. Also, it was wooded, so it would have taken off the wings. That would have been a good thing in a way, because it takes away the inertia, and it takes away the some of the fire danger, because you have a lot of fuel in the wings, I believe. Although on that aircraft, I don't know. That was a very, very thin plane, so I don't know what the deal was with that. But certainly, it was not something that any person in their right mind would do when they had the chance to circle back and get back to the airport. And what they're saying was that in a pilot's mind, in anybody's mind, but particularly a pilot, the runway represents safety. And that's what happened here. They recommended this video and so forth. They recommended that the plane be flown forward and crash landed into the woods. They said they had a better chance that way. But it was just too tempting to try to write that check without funds, aerodynamically speaking, to get back to the airport. So we can't tell exactly what caused it or why the engine failed. From what the NTSB said, is they were getting problems on the ground. On the ground while they were taking off, they could. Biffle, or one of the passengers, said that they heard the engine go out on one side or another. They heard it, or they heard some kind of problem, and that should have, if they were taxiing down the runway or trying to take off, they should have aborted the takeoff with all the things that I'm telling you. So I guess you can thank the pilot for handing the plane over to his 16-year-old son with one failed engine, jet engine, and poor conditions, and they may have made it if the pilot stayed in his seat. They may have survived. They may not have, because they were coming in with very, very heavy. But they cleared all but one last thing over there where they're coming in before the runway. So it was a real tragedy, and the poor girl suffered because she was sending texts, saying, "We're in trouble. We're in an emergency landing. We're in a lot of trouble." So the poor girl, innocent little girl, taken because of some stupid Delta pilot who never bothered understanding anything other than success. Sometimes you have to know failure, and you have to look at it. And he would have understood how difficult it was. Not that the flight books tell you that you can accelerate and go up on one engine. They'll always tell you that, but in practicality, it may not be so easy. The pilot was the fault for that crash. So that's it. Take care. That's my nickel's worth on it. It may have been, but I don't think so, because they're saying that they had problems while they were taking off, unless it was at very high speed and the compartment came open and something went into the motor. That is possible, I guess, but the way they're saying it is I don't know at what point of the runway they were experiencing these problems. Theoretically, it could still be true with the storage compartment issue, but probably not. I have to admit to that. Take care, folks. I'll be back later. We don't do the news today on Saturday, and maybe we'll just try to have a little bit of fun, okay? It was a terrible loss for that biffle. He's one of the greatest race car drivers in history. And of course, his family and friends that perished with him. Take care, folks, and I'll be back with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I gave you a pretty accurate rundown of what happened there, according to the NTSB, on their update a month after the crash, or 2 months, whatever it was. Take care. I'll see you later. Don't forget to subscribe.